Now, we have a new season. What comes with a new season? Very often are players trying to level up their UI, their add-ons, their mods, or even their Weakauras, or very simply update them to Season 4. For example, we have rotating raids requiring different Weakauras for all the bosses. You also have new dungeons in the pool. So you will need some updated Weakauras for all the dungeons, for example. So today in this video we are going to be listing up all of the more popular and the more useful add-ons as well as Weakauras for this season. Starting with the first question that I often get, Izen, what is this icon popping up in the middle of your screen showing your cooldowns? Like it just happened right now for Power Shield and is also about to happen again right now. That is something called Doom Cooldown Pulse, and it does exactly that. It's gonna pulse the icon of the ability coming back off cooldown, and then of course it offers you the ability to, first of all, shape the icons popping up, but also to blacklist certain abilities you don't want to see popping up as they come back off cooldown. Now, the second question you will ask is, but Izen, the icons I get are all ugly. They are low quality, they have these thick borders, whereas yours look much cooler. That's because I am getting the HQ, the high definition version of these icons. To do so, you have to download CleanIcons, which will do exactly that. It will give you the high quality version of all of the icons in the game for WoW, and then once you have downloaded this, you put this in the World of Warcraft retail interface folder, and all of your icons will become high quality. But then comes the second question. Izen, even after I did that, my icons still look shit compared to yours. That is where Masque comes into play. Masque is an add-on that has the ability to change the shape and size and style of all of your icons. For example, you can use straight up the global version to change all of the icons you want. For example, you have the classic version of the icons from Blizzard. You can change them to the classic Redux. Why not? You can change them to the Dream version. You can also change the color of the borders yourself, or you can do like me and use the zoomed version to zoom the icons in. You can then use more plugins to change the shape and size of the icons in the way you want. For example, you can have the flat squares, the squat version, the simple square, then you have the circ, the dominoes, the entropy, all these names, which basically means you can make your icons in a triangle version, a star, a circle, even a heart-shaped icon if you want, by using Masque. Another thing that is often asked is this thing right here, Izen, how do I get all of these icons next to the party frames, listing all of the cooldowns, all of the abilities, the big defensives, for example, and even the interrupt bar to keep track of the interrupts of the party. That comes from OmniCD. So installing OmniCD will give you this functionality, and then you can change and decide where you want to have them active, if it's in battlegrounds, in dungeons, in raids, or if only in some of these. And then you have the option by going through the dungeons and the spells to individually choose which abilities you want to see for each spec and class. When you're looking at Fire Mage, do you care for their Phoenix Flames, for their Meteor, or for their Combustion, or for only one of these, for example? And that's what you can customize with OmniCD as well. One thing that is very important when it comes especially to Mythic Plus are going to be the nameplates of enemies to keep track of several things, you know, being able to navigate when you're pulling something like 15 different mobs. Who are you targeting, for example, the amount of debuffs or important buffs or debuffs on enemies, as well as their cast, their dangerous cast, etc., etc. That comes with Plater. So the simplest way, considering Plater is a very, let's just say, convoluted add-on given the gigantic amount of options you have available, is to very simply go to wago.io and pick up a profile you have done by someone else and just use it yourself. You go to Plater nameplates and then you pick up, let's just say you're a Fire Mage. You just go for the Fire Mage and look for certain good platers for your spec, or simply look for Plater profiles. By looking at Plater profiles, you'll get the options for many of the more used profiles, very often synergized and spec'd for Mythic Plus, giving you, a whole bunch of different things that will make Mythic Plus easier, for example. In our case, I will give you the profile of the newly released Vesperal TV's Mythic Plus Plater profile, which came out today. So if you want to check it and give it up some feedback, I will also leave behind the video made by Vesperal himself with even further information about the profile. Now, what is left though after all of these other useful add-ons is the chunkier part of your UI, which of course is going to be your Weakauras. So given it's a new season, here is the Mythic Plus dungeon icons as well as bars and dangerous things happening updated for Season 4, together with something more useful, especially for tanks, like the Mythic Plus auto marker when it comes to automatically marking different sets of mobs. Then, since we are getting our older raids rotated back into the schedule, you also have the Aberus pack for the bosses, as well as the Vault of the Incarnates pack for the bosses that are currently active in this Awakened season. SpellCDs on nameplates is also a very useful add-on, especially, of course, for the more dangerous of the mechanics in Mythic Plus that you want to keep track of. That will help you time, for example, your interrupts, your stuns, your CCs, maybe even your defensives for some of the more dangerous abilities in Mythic Plus, in particularly for trash, right? Because for bosses, of course, you have something I'm not even bothering to list in here, like DBM or like bigwigs to give you the timers, but trash mobs don't have timers. Trash mobs don't have these predictable bars coming up, which is something that gets fixed, partially at least, by having SpellCDs on nameplates for all of the trash mobs. You can, of course, get rid of them by going through them individually whenever you realize that certain things are not really that related to you. So you can go to SpellCD on nameplates and navigate dungeon by dungeon by going through the custom options and picking up every one of the individual mechanics. And you're like, well, this is a tank mechanic I don't care about, or this is a mechanic that only targets melee and I'm a caster, I don't care to see bold ambush, so I just want to get it removed, for example. You can then customize those things yourself. Now, to make all of the packs for the dungeons as well as the ones for the raids work, you need the shared media of QoLs as well, which is very useful for the extra sounds you will be able to use in all of your Weakauras, not just in these specific dungeon packs, but these will also be added, for example, if you are using a Weakaura pack for your spec, like myself, for example, for Shadow Priest, whenever my, for example, Mind Games comes off cooldown, you can have a sound effect, and amongst the sound effects, by using the shared media of QoLs, you're gonna have access to a whole bunch of extra sound effects that are not normally available and are more specific, right? You can have options like move, or nuke, or targeting a specific marker, moving out, an overlap of mechanics, a reminder to use potions, etc, etc, etc. All these extra sound effects will be available by using the shared media add-on. This is a bit more try-hard, so it's not really gonna be for most players, but the Mythic Plus AoE CC rotation is also quite helpful whenever you want to try to get a bit more coordinated, right? This essentially puts the major AoE or stops in your group in a rotation, so that if you are in a group, you get to know who is supposed to be using which stop first. As I said, won't really be about for the majority of the player base, but in case you have missed this, then you can make use of this add-on, particularly for Mythic Plus. Now, I said we shouldn't be talking about something as obvious as DBM or as obvious as bigwigs, but there is something extra that gets often asked to me whenever I have videos with this one enabled, and that's the ability timeline for your boss mods. It is quite self-explanatory. It is very simply going to change the bars of your boss mods into an ability timeline. You can then, again, of course, customize it yourself. You can make the bar thicker or thinner, you can make it horizontal rather than vertical, you can get rid of the names of the abilities, or you can rename the abilities yourself, and they will all show up as a timeline rather than a set of bars. Lastly, in case you were curious, if you're wondering about this cursor right here, it's a modified version of the Ultimate Mouse Cursor. I will put down in the link both the original version of this mouse cursor as well as my own modified version of the cursor, just to help you, keep track of your mouse as you move around, especially in Mythic Plus, where you're fighting 74 different mobs. Having a glowy cursor will help not lose yourself in the fight. And lastly, only because we are back to all of the dungeons from Dragonflight, so this thing you earned last season and the season before that might come back into play to be helpful, and that's the Mythic Plus portals for the current season. Well, very simply, whenever you open your Mythic Plus UI panel, you will get an easy instant click of all of your portals for each of the Dragonflight dungeons available for this season. As I said, an extra quality of life thing, rather than constantly having to go, oh, where are we going? What was this? Was it like Ruby Life Pulse? Oh, let me just go through here and pick up the, where is it? Ruby Life Pulse for the season and try to find it. And having to scroll through multiple ones of these to pick them up. Now it's going to be much easier. This was the compilation of the most useful add-ons, as well as the updated add-ons plus the updated Weakauras for the season. Of course, it's not everything. We haven't gone through something like details or something like shadowed unit frames. Why not something like your cast bars or even something like OPI? But those are not, nearly as important. So for today, with this recap of add-ons, I am of course leaving behind the links for every one of these add-ons down in the description. So the only thing that's left now is to leave each other on this Friday, according to some, the beginning of the weekend. Thanks, of course, as usual, to all of the Patreon supporters for the contribution and the help to the growth of the channel, which can, as usual, be given completely for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with these informational things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, I like it. We are in here and it's raining outside with a soothing sound, and we are now in-game and it's also raining in-game with a soothing raining sound. What a combo.